All right. We are here with Neel Nanda,
Yeah.
stand-up comedian.
Yep.
And any other job titles, or is that your main gig?
That's my main gig.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I do a little bit of writing, a little bit of acting too, a lot of stuff you haven't seen. But yeah, mostly just stand-up, touring, and all around town.
Love it. Well, let's start with the event. So, Joe, you want to talk about that, working with these guys?
Yeah, so we got hooked up through Natasha. And yeah, how do you know Natasha?
Through a dating app. Actually,
You
well,
met on the dating
that's
app.
the story that she tells.
Okay.
I lie. So her story is dating app, because you know when you're on the dating apps, when you're a dude, you're just casting a wide net. You know, you're trying to get as many fish in your net as possible. You know, so I was just like, hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? This was like 87 times a day, like minimum. You know, and so she was one of the hey, what's ups. So she never responded. Nothing happened. And or maybe she did respond. I don't.
You can't keep track of all the responses.
I can't keep track.
87's a lot.
I can't keep track of the 3 responses. You know, I can't do that. So so months go by, and I'm doing a show, and right after that show, like the next day, I get a DM on Twitter, and it's Natasha, and I follow her back. She has more followers than me. That's the only reason, to be honest. I was like, she looks cute, and she got more followers than me. Why would I not follow her back? So then she hits me with this. Like, oh, this is so weird, but I saw your comedy show and you're really funny. I wanted to see if you'd like to go out for a drink. And I was like, oh, okay,
Groupie.
cool, yeah,
Possible.
good.
This is
Possibly,
awesome. So she took the initiative.
She took the initiative.
Wow.
And then I was like, all right, so which show did you see me at? And she was like, oh, you know, it was like a little show. I was like, was it the Improv? Because I thought it was a good show, you know?
Yeah.
Like I had just done, like that week, I just did the Improv with Ray Romano. I had just done like the Laugh Factory with a bunch of great people. So I thought she saw me like kill it somewhere. She saw me at a show with 8 people. She was one of the 8 people at this show. It was just like on my way home, they were like, hey, do you want to drop in for a spot? And I was like, I've never heard of this place. And I show up, it's like underground.
CVS, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a CVS. And there was 8 people there. And I was like, oh my God, you saw me at the worst possible show. But that's a testament to how funny I am, you know?
Of course, yeah. I'm sure
make
you
8
killed
people laugh. Yeah.
And you didn't see her in the audience of the 8?
I mean, I believe I did.
Okay.
But it was one of those like I'm blacking this out on my memory shows. I have a handful of, like, at least once a week you'll have one where you're like, that never happened. You know, I wasn't there. Who's that picture of? That's not me. You know, don't tag me. So she was one of the 8 people at that show. I was like, oh my God, she saw me at a terrible show. But we went out and it was cool. She was like, let me get you a drink. She got the first round. I got the second round. She got the third round. I got the 4th round. She got the 5th. We were wasted at this point. Now we're like 5, 6. So it was very cool. It was like a very mutual like interest, you know. And that's the story of how we met.
Well, did you guys know that you matched on an app?
She did.
She did. Oh, so
I
she
had
like,
no idea. She got lost in the sauce. She got lost in the net. That net was huge. I'm telling you, like I could have fit half of Los Angeles in that net, including some guys accidentally, a couple of kids. Oops, you know, delete.
That's on them. Yeah.
That's on them. They lied, you know.
Yeah.
But the net was wide, so like I had no idea we had even conversed or anything. But she felt comfortable reaching out to me because of that. She was like, oh, I felt comfortable reaching out because like I knew you were already interested. And I was like, right. I was like, yeah, definitely, you were the one, you know. But it's just so funny how different men and women use dating apps.
Yeah.
'Cause, like,
Which app was it? Sorry.
It was Tinder.
Okay.
It was Tinder. It was Tinder days.
How long ago was this?
7 years ago.
I was gonna say, because
damn.
if you met her on Tinder now, I'd kind of judge both of you, to be honest.
Right? Yeah, and that's why I lie about it. That's why I lie. That's why I tell the whole comedy story with the Twitter and the thing and stuff like that. But she's like, Tinder. I'm like, don't tell it. Just tell the whole story.
Or say Tinder
You know?
7 years ago.
Yeah, I guess that works.
That's okay.
That's like,
if you,
yeah,
if you say
respectable.
Tinder yesterday,
Yeah,
I'd
it's
be
a
like,
problem.
Neil, and I'd say Natasha, like, I don't know if
Right.
we could be friends.
Right, yeah. You guys both need to get checked immediately. Need to find out.
So what happened after that first date? How'd it go? How did it finish?
We hit it off, and we shared an Uber home. We lived in like the same area, so I got to find out where she lived in Stockton. And we just kept in touch, and we kept going out and
Nice.
met her friends. She met my friends. She came to some shows, and it was, from there.
Love it.
Still going.
Still going.
Oh, you guys are together?
We're still together.
Oh, shit.
yeah.
So
I didn't know that.
me neither. So
Yeah.
I wish Natasha would have informed me about it.
Informed you about this? It's
She just like, you have to meet this guy, Neel. He's great. And I was like, all right. And then we texted 5 minutes later. We were
Yeah.
on the phone 20 minutes later.
right.
still until that was what, a month ago?
Yeah.
Till this
so-
day, I had no idea.
That we were dating?
No.
You had no idea. You
Well,
just
I
thought
don't
was
really
like a,
talk to Natasha a lot.
right.
So like,
She didn't
asked-
mention it 7 years.
This
Come
guy,
on,
this
damn.
guy Neel. Wow.
So for 7 years, you're still going.
Yeah.
Natasha, what the?
Yeah. What the fuck, dude?
Damn.
I thought you would have met. I thought this was clear.
Not
This
clear
is
at all.
crazy.
I don't even know Natasha. So,
So
Wow.
funny. And I actually reached out to both of you separately to do the podcast. And
That's so
I
crazy.
feel like, I don't know if Natasha's really that busy,
Mhm.
but it takes her a little more time to get back to me with business stuff.
She has a
So
real
I'm like-
job.
Yeah,
She has a real
exactly.
job. That's different. It's like a lot of people, like I perform every night. I'm out like and do stuff, but like I don't have anything going on. I'm responding to email. I'm responding to emails people didn't send me. You know what I mean? I'm just making shit. I'm like, hey, did you text me? Like I don't got. She has like shit going on. She's like interviewing. She works in sports and she interviews like the coolest people on the planet, like Kawhi Leonard and Kevin Durant and just like David Blaine. That was a weird one. Not a athlete, but
I still don't. Have you ever seen the frog video?
Yeah.
I don't know how he did that.
He actually swallows the frogs.
And just they chilled on there until.
So the thing that's crazy about David Blaine is he's not really as much of a magician as he is like a body contortionist, kind of thing. Like when he sticks a needle through his arm, he's not like, oh, ha ha ha, it's not a real needle. It's like, oh, there's a needle going through my arm, but I figured out how to not puncture a vein or how to not puncture the bone and shit like that.
Yeah.
So when he swallowed the frogs, I saw a documentary about this. He trained his body to become an aquarium where so the first trick he did was he would swallow kerosene. No, he would swallow a gallon of water. He used to swallow a ton of water. Then he would swallow kerosene. He would light something on fire, throw up the kerosene, make it explode, and then throw up the water and put it out. And then it's insane. And then his doctor was like, hey, you're going to die. You're going to die like tomorrow, like probably. And so he was like, well, I can't do that anymore. That's how he talks. So I can't do it. Perfect impression. And so he was like, he couldn't do it anymore. So then he trained his body to become an aquarium where he could have fish and frogs and all sorts of things like live in his body. And then you can just throw them up at will.
That's out of control.
It's
that
unbelievable.
video's insane. Yeah.
It's crazy.
With Chappelle, I think Chappelle's in there and a couple.
and Steph Curry.
Yeah, a couple guys.
Yeah,
That's
it's crazy.
Have you seen that new guy, The Mentalist?
No.
I think his name's like, I don't know if it's Oz or OZ, but he's like, he went and did like the Seattle Seahawks and does a bunch of stuff, but it's like he'll come in and be like, hey, think of somebody from your past or whatever, and he'll tell Joe to like write down a random name and it'll just be like the same person. Like it's just like I can't even do it
I
justice.
don't understand those either.
No,
the ones where like they'll be like, oh no, the name's on my arm.
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
How the fuck did you
in
do
your
that?
pocket. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I don't understand.
It's
it
either real magic or it's all fake,
You
like
know what's
completely fake. I
the
don't know where
funniest-
everyone's in on it.
The funniest thing about magic is like when you learn the tricks, it's so stupid. It's always like, oh, you just had another card.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, I just folded it. Like those one where David Blaine would be like, oh, you pick this card, the 7 of clubs, and he'd throw it against a window, like a restaurant with like glass windows where you can see outside, and he'd throw it, and then your card would be taped on the inside of the window. I'm like, how the fuck did he do that?
Yeah, I think it's crazy.
Isn't that insane? You want me to ruin it?
Are they all the same?
No.
Like the whole deck is this?
No. So you pick a 9 of clubs.
Yeah.
And then he's like, you see your 9 of clubs, and he throws it at the wall, right? When he's doing this, you see this 9 of clubs. Somebody from inside the restaurant is like, oh, 9 of clubs. And then they tape the 9 of
No.
clubs to
Oh,
the
shit.
inside. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what's happening.
Okay.
So it's like, it looks amazing. And you're like, how the fuck? How did he do this? But he has an assistant inside.
How do you explain this one?
Mm-hmm.
So I watched a few videos the other day, and it was the one where he eats. He shows his mouth. There's nothing in his mouth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he sews his mouth shut, and then he makes someone pick a card, and then he cuts his mouth open,
And the
then
card's inside.
Yeah.
Well, I can explain the sewing the mouth shut with he actually sewed his mouth shut because he's a psychopath. So the card inside the mouth, that's difficult. There's 2 ways you can do that. I'm not a magician, by the way. So
You
sound
fool
like
me.
one.
Yeah, you could fool me. Yeah.
So there's ways you can do that. So there's a lot of like tricks where you can get things inside your mouth discreetly, slide a hand and stuff and fold it up, and especially if it's very small. So he probably did that in some way. And then he probably did what's called a force, where he forces you to pick a specific card. That's my guess, but there's probably a lot more to it. And there's a lot of practice. And the thing that's funny is like magicians have to fuck up too. They have to be like, oh, fuck, I got the 7. You know what I mean? Like they have to fuck up too. So I'm sure that's happened. That's the thing that's funny about magic is like, you only get to see them do it when like they got the trick down and you're blown away. But like 80 times they're like, oops, and drop some shit, you know? So that's what I'm guessing he did, but I don't know.
So I guess speaking of fucking up, as a magician does, when you're on stage, does it happen often? And how do you handle that, knowing like, shit, I just bombed that joke?
It's part of the process. It's part of growing as a comedian. You have to try new things, and you have to like, you know, you have to work on new material, and you have to figure it out. So bombing is definitely a huge part of the process. I always say, like, as long as you're not bombing all the time, you know what I mean? Like, as long as it's not like every show, that's a problem. You know what I mean? That's like, okay, maybe you shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
But it's like if you're driving and you crash every day, it's like, what the? But if you crash your car every, you know, couple years or whatever, it's like that happens. You know, you're going to fuck up. People are going to fuck up. So I do try material a lot. And I usually do it. What I do is I do a method called sandwiching, where I open with something really strong, then the crowd likes me. Then I do some good stuff like a little bit, and then towards like the middle, I'll try a couple new things. And usually just based on momentum, it'll work or work well enough. Or it'll work well enough, or it'll not work, but they'll forget about it because I'm a sandwich this in the middle, and now I close with something strong. And like, oh, I don't remember that one joke about horrors or what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I usually will sandwich them in the middle. But like I was talking to you like before the podcast, we were talking about how like a lot of famous comedians go around, they work out their material in a lot of rooms. They don't really care about the money because they're like, I just want to figure this joke out, or I want to work on this 10 minutes, or I want to figure out this story that I've been trying to tell, and maybe like I'll figure it out tonight. There's a ton of shows where you can do that. There are the shows like at the Laugh Factory, the Improv, the Comedy Store, where you should probably just showcase to your best material. People paid money, you're getting paid well. And they're clubs, and there's usually Booker there, but there's 100 bar shows and 100 backyards and rooftops and independent venues where you can throw in some new stuff.
Nice.
And you've been doing it for a long time now, right?
Since I was 19. It's been 11 years, 12, almost 12.
And now do you feel in your day-to-day life, or even with Natasha, that you're naturally funny or trying to be funny or practicing stuff just socially?
You know, I don't try to be funny or like the natural funny. So like a lot of my material will come from conversation. Like we'll be talking and I'll be saying something. I'll be like, that's pretty funny. I'll write it down and then I'll work on it. But I think you never find funny when you try. The like worst comedies you've ever seen are the ones where they're like, whoa, I fell and there's a bucket, and you know, they're trying too hard. Comedy, it's about surprise, about a punchline, it's about something you didn't see coming. So the funniest things to me are things I didn't see coming. Here's an example. When I was in New York a few months ago, I was about to turn the corner. I was in like the Lower East Side, and it was like 3 a.m. I just got done with shows. And it was like, you know, not super safe. It was post-COVID-y times. New York's a little sketchy right now.
Very sketchy.
We were just there, yeah.
It's a little sketchy. So it's a little sketchy, and I'm about to turn the corner, and I just hear a bunch of dudes saying the N-word, right? And I'm like, all right, it's probably just...
What word is that for the record?
Yes, for the record. So it's spelled... I'm doing a spelling bee. Can you use it in a sentence?
That South Park clip
I'll
is
tell
all
you,
time,
if you
though.
said
I don't know
that,
if you've seen it.
you'd make the app go so viral because we'd be all over the news. And
Oh, right,
to
yeah.
your expense, we'd be like, listen, he was our guest, but
Yeah, he
check
did
out-
it.
yeah.
We only asked him once, you know. So from around the corner, these guys were saying the M-word, and I was like, okay, it's just, you know, a group of black guys. I'm not racist. I'm not scared. It's not a problem. So I turn the corner, and it's 8 Korean dudes, and now I'm racist, and I'm terrified. You know what I mean? And that's just something that happened, and so I saw that and was like, that's really funny. I should write that down and figure out how to turn that into a joke. And that's where most of my comedy comes from, is experience and from, like, conversation, just, like, talking to people, and then something naturally funny gets said. You know, as opposed to like, I gotta find the fun. When you're trying to find the funny, it's never there. You know, you're just forcing it.
Yeah. And then how do you handle like the cancel culture and what to say and what not to say, and kind of like what's his name? Who's
What?
the big comedian?
Louis C.K.?
No.
Dave Chappelle?
What do you do
Dave
wrong?
Chappelle,
Dave
right?
Chappelle.
Like his whole mentality of like comedy's comedy. You could
So,
say what you could say.
I agree with that. And he's kind of proved that is true.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people say, you can't say this, you can't do this. This guy just hosted SNL. The
Yeah.
guy just did 3 specials for $50 million. The guy can go to any city in America. He can go to like Bumblefuck, Arkansas, and sell out an arena. I don't even know if they have arenas. They'll build an arena for this guy. So the thing is, like, with cancel culture and what to say and what not to say, what it's really doing is it's weeding out people who are saying things they probably shouldn't say. And I have a rule that if it's like difficult or controversial, it's got to be that much funnier. You know what I mean? I just did a joke about Roe v. Wade, and I was expecting so much backlash. I got none because I worked really hard on this joke because I was like, I'm gonna make sure it's foolproof and it's just hilarious. There's nothing, there's no holes you can poke in here where you're saying like, oh, he's wrong for saying this, and that this culture, I feel like it in a way makes comedy better because we're working so much harder to make it funnier. Yeah. You know, but at the same time, there's a little bit of backlash, or I will say there's too many extremes. There's like the extreme, like, you know, like, oh, hey, you can't say that thing or that word, that word. People tell me I can't talk about my culture. Yeah. That's insane to me. Like I do, like, sometimes I talk about my dad and I'll use the Indian accent. People are like, that accent's racist. I'm like, you know, my dad's racist? Like, yeah. What are you talking? Like, how weird would it be if I was like, and then my Indian dad was like, hey, Neel, like that makes no sense. So, you know, there's extremes and people definitely push it too far. But generally the people that, like, if you say something, there's nothing wrong with it and people are upset, they're generally just idiots. They just they
want to just cause a stir. Really,
they want to cause a stir. They don't critically think. That's one thing that I believe is the problem with all of this. I think the problem is people don't critically think, so they hear jokes as statements. You know, whenever you see an article where a comedian said something terrible or funny but terrible, it'll say the comedian said. The comedian never said that. He joked that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There's a different context when you say, like, I said this. Like, if you transcribed my set right now, I'd be in jail. You know what I mean? You were like, he gave a speech and said this. I'd be in jail right now, you know? But it's that there's context, there's nuance, there's timing, there's inflection of the voice, there's facial expressions. There's so many things that go into comedy that you can't just write down. Yeah. You know, unless you want to write a book. If you want to write a comedy book, then you figure that out. It's a different skill set. But with stand-up comedy, there's so much more that goes into it than just the words we said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you're not like punching down either, that's a big one. Like, I think that people...
That's such a funny phrase because that didn't exist when I started comedy. No one ever said punching down. It became a phrase, and I agree with it to a degree. Like, you shouldn't be just shitting on you shouldn't be making the victims of your jokes. Right. But at the same time, I still believe that if something's just funny, it's just funny.
Like Shane Gillis always talks about, like, the Special Olympics, and like it's hilarious.
It's so funny. Yeah,
so funny.
Shane's great. Shane did fart really bad in the green room once and did not admit it. And we were the only people in the green room. It was just me and him. We were at the stand in New York. I'll never forget this. And I go, "Oh, you farted?" He goes, "No, I didn't fart." I go, "It's just us." Who do you? I was like, "I didn't fart." And he was like, "Dude, I didn't fart." And I was like, "It smelled fine, and then now it doesn't." And it's just me and you. And then he walked out, left me with his fart.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's
great guy
that
otherwise.
Yeah.
Great guy otherwise. Very funny comic otherwise, but farted in the green room and wouldn't admit it.
Damn.
Like, if it's just us, you know, just I know what it is.
Just
cool. Go my bad.
Yeah.
Just go my. People need to learn the phrase my bad. Yeah. You know?
Or I don't know.
All right. No, you know if you farted.
No. I'm saying when people... If
Oh,
someone
when- yeah,
can't
yeah.
say I don't know, they're just like out with me.
Right. I'm a
But-
big like proponent of my bad or sorry or whatever. Or I don't know is fine too. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
What if
Ask
Shane
me-
answered the question that way?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd be like, you know what you did.
I don't know.
You know what you did. But yeah, so like with cancel culture and all that stuff, I think overall it's a good thing. I think overall, like, we're getting rid of some terrible people that have been doing terrible things for a long time. We're making people scared of doing terrible things, and we're holding people accountable and preventing people from doing shitty things. But I think when it comes to jokes, it's just interesting to me because that's like the lowest common denominator for me. Like, there are people doing horrible things out there in the world, but it's very difficult to get to those people. But to tweet at a comedian, it's very easy. And to tweet at to comment on YouTube or on Instagram or something, it's so easy to do. But to go actually like get equal pay for women or to do, get like, work on police brutality and things like that, it's hard. It takes a lot of work and a lot of organization. So a lot of people would just rather tweet at a comedian and be like, that's offensive. This is terrible. Cancel this guy. So I just think it's interesting that it's starting at the lowest common denominator. I think it'll move up. I think people will actually impact change over time, but it's just I feel like speech is getting caught in the crossfire.
And now, how do you find going to a comedy show as a first date, and how do you tie? And you're in a relationship, so it's a little different.
Yeah.
As am I, but tying that dating in LA aspect to comedy and what you see,
Well,
and do you even use it still?
I used to always say, I don't really talk about dating much unless it's about my relationship. But I used to have a joke where I say, I didn't know if I was dating girls or if I was just feeding girls. Because for a long time, I was going on feedings, I used to say, even when we were first started dating, I was like, I'm in a committed feeding right now, But going to comedy shows, it can be a little tricky. I think that it's generally fine as long as you don't sit up in the front. Because you're gonna get
You
talked
call them
to.
out.
Somebody will. It may
Okay.
not be me. Maybe the host, it may be the headline, maybe the feature, maybe the guy who goes up before me, after me, whatever. Somebody's going to say something. And it's weird to be on a first date and then have to be like, oh, yeah. And then the guy's like, yeah, y'all fucking. And they're just like, oh, not yet. I don't know, maybe. And so I think going to comedy on dates is totally chill, especially a first date. It's super fun, especially if you guys share an interest in the comedian.
Yeah.
It can be really weird if you go on a first date and you're dying laughing and she's like, this is horrible. How can he say that,
Who would be a good comedian to see on a first date versus a bad, as far as couple? Like, who would call you out and who would let you be?
Who would let you be?
And kind of give you like a sweet.
Well, it
nice
also
little comedy
depends if you
show.
go to like a club or because I got Louis tickets in January and I don't know who I'm going to bring because you got to bring
Right.
someone that
Big date?
I don't know. Well,
Okay.
it could be
Or me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
or you maybe.
Is,
yeah.
is that in a theater, I'm assuming?
Yeah, one of the big LA ones.
So he's not
yeah.
going to, if you're in a theater,
Yeah,
no
he's
one's going to talk to you. Like, it's hard. It's really difficult to do crowd work in a theater. It can be done, and I've seen it done, and it's like masterful when it is, but it's very rare that, because like, it's like there's thousands of people, and it's like no one can see that guy's hat. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't worry about like in a theater.
Oh, I'm not worried. I'm worried about who I'm going to bring. Who's going to
Right.
be cool to see Louis.
Right,
And,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. See, that's what I'm talking about. You got to make it clear. If you're going to go see a comedian, make it clear who you're going to go see and whether you guys have the same sense of humor.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you could show up and then you could be like, that was amazing. And then
Or she
you
won't
leave.
even go in. She'd be like, you like Louis C.K.
Right, there's that.
you.
Too. Well, you got to let her know before. You don't just like, surprise, we're at
I
Louis
remember
C.K. show.
one time I went to see Girl with the Dragon Tattoo with a date. And have you seen it?
Yeah.
You haven't seen it?
No.
So you know there's like a brutal rape
Brutal
scene.
scene, yeah.
She gets up and it was a first date. She gets up and leaves and just never came back. And I
But
didn't,
you
I didn't,
wanna watch
I didn't
it
go.
left?
Well, she was uncomfortable, but
You
And
just
she never
kept
came back.
watching.
I just
You
kept
didn't,
watching.
you didn't leave?
No, I didn't leave.
You were like, it was a good movie.
great
Dave
movie.
Fincher's amazing.
It's a great
director,
movie.
yeah.
I love
That's an
Fincher.
amazing
Yeah.
story.
And she just
wild.
never. We talked like a week later, but it was like 2 texts, and that was
And that was
it.
the
Yeah.
first point of contact after.
That was it. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, but there are plenty. Most comedians and most shows you go to will be fine, but then there are certain people like Andrew Schultz is an example. He's a friend of mine, a hilarious comedian. He's absolutely just killing it right now. But he I don't know if he even likes doing material because the dude just goes up for like half of his show and fucks with people. And that's not a show you want to go to because he will get into every detail of your life if you're sitting up there or if he feels like talking to you, So, but I would say most shows are fine. And especially if you share the same sense of humor, you know what I mean? You could even like text them a clip of the comedy, like, hey, is this funny? And
Yeah.
they're like, oh, that's hilarious. But like, we should go see this guy. That would be a good way to figure out, whether or not this is a person you want to see the show.
And now, what's more difficult? Coming up with a good, what do you call it, a monologue or a good
set.
Set.
Sure, yeah. Monologue. See, this is the problem. This is what I'm
Well,
talking about.
you're hosting SNL,
No,
right?
no, but this is what I'm talking about. When
What's a
you call
monologue?
them speeches or monologues and stuff, that's what makes people go like, he's a terrible person. Look at
Okay,
this
so
dude's
monologue is
monologue.
no-
Yeah,
it's a
his
set.
monologue. Yeah, set.
Okay.
Yeah.
So putting together a good set versus kind of doing what Andrew would do.
Crowd work.
Yeah, like what's more difficult?
I mean, they're both difficult. And they're both so the way I look at it is like some people think crowd work is easier and some people are like,
I would think it's harder.
I do too. I personally think it's harder.
It shows you're like quick and witty.
Exactly. I think it's a lot harder. But the only reason they say it's easier is because you get way more leeway with the crowd.
Okay.
When you come with something on the spot, it's a way bigger laugh because they're like, oh shit, he's doing this for us. Oh my God, he didn't even plan this, and they lose their minds. You get a bigger laugh and you get a better response. But just like material or doing comedy, you can be bad at either. You can be bad at being a comedian and writing your jokes and having a good set, and you can be bad at crowd work. So I think both skills involve a lot of like work. Because like shows, for example, is somebody who can just go and talk to the crowd for half an hour. If I'm doing an hour set, I may talk to them for 10 to 15 minutes at most. At most like 15. If it's a wild night, maybe 20. You know what I mean? But for that, like for me, that's a lot. You know, like generally 5 to 10 minutes of crowd work in my hour set. And but Andrew's someone who does it every night, and he's perfected that. He's gotten so good at it.
It's almost like part of his act at this point,
yeah,
right?
it's become kind of part of his act. In fact, he dropped a crowd work special where he does just crowd work for an hour. And it's amazing. You guys, he has the funniest line about, so like, this is so specific to my culture. And so like I'm Indian, and Sikhs are like the warrior class of Indians, and they wear these bracelets, and it used to be like a shield for like swords. And he goes, you know, that guy's wearing the bracelet, and he goes, that used to be a shield for swords, and now it's for protection when you're resting it on the wheel of the Uber you're driving. You know,
that's great.
Yeah, it was so funny. It was so specific. I remember asking him once. I said, "How do you know so much about so many cultures?" He goes, "Fuck a lot of girls with different cultures." I was like, "All right." That's good. That's a good way to learn.
He's blown up in the last 5 years, right? And I don't know much about the comedy world, but I remember 5 years ago my friend mentioned him, and I know he was, and now obviously he's everywhere.
He's been doing it forever. I met him when I was 19, actually. I met him when I first started comedy in Atlanta. He came through, and he just kind of figured out the game of putting out so much content for free to get people to buy tickets to see him. And comics were before he did that, we were very precious with our material. We were like, oh, we're going to save it up for a special. We're going to save it up for a Comedy Central set or a late night or whatever. So I'm not putting my stuff out there. And he said, fuck it, I'm not getting any of those things. So I'm just going to put it out there. And then, you know, if you build it, they came. He's now selling out Radio City Music Hall.
Wow.
You know? And I saw him at a pizza shop in Atlanta 10 years ago, you know?
Yeah. Wild. Crazy. That's awesome. Yeah. So the event we're doing, what is it? 2 weeks?
November 26th.
Yeah, right after Thanksgiving, the Saturday.
Everyone's going to dance there.
Yeah, we got to stand up and
off.
dance. Yeah, this is a show that I actually produced pre-COVID years ago. We did it in a warehouse downtown, and we would have like 300 people. We had Ali Wong did it. Hannibal Buress did it. It was like really, really cool. Hannibal Buress he was fucked up on stage, if I'm being honest. I don't even remember what he said. But and then the whole place turns into a dance floor, and it's a dance party.
And they join in?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, they hang out. They want to hang out. They want to talk to some girls.
I feel I feel like comedians are a different class of celebrity where you're so kind of just normal, where you just you don't want to be
above, on
a pedestal.
You lose relatability.
Yeah.
As soon as like I live in Beverly Hills, I've never said it on stage. You know what I mean? Like how could I say that on stage? Like that'd be so weird if I was just like, so I was walking down Rodeo. You know, that's just doesn't make any sense. So you lose relatability if you're not humble, and if you're not just like interacting with people. You know, we interact with people all the time because get our material. You guys say stupid shit. You know what I mean? Like people say dumb things. You hear conversations. You meet people with funny hair and funny outfits and stuff like that. So comics will hang out. They always hang out and chill and drink and party with everybody.
Hopefully some of them are single and they just jump on the app, and then
I
that
think,
would
I know someone there. Yeah, exactly.
Grow the app a little more.
Possibly, yeah.
So now, are you guys all in like this circle? Like you all have these connections, like Andrew, Adam Sandler, Tiffany Haddish. Like you guys just know everyone?
So that's the cool thing about comedy is like if you're like a band, you're not gonna just like run into the Rolling Stones. You know what I mean? But like the biggest comedians in the world will drop into bars, to backyards, they need to work on their material, especially in Los Angeles where stage time is very scarce. And if a famous comic is going up at like the Improv or the Comedy Store or the Laugh Factory all in West Hollywood, there's something around there. They'll just walk over and hey, can I do 10 minutes? Can I do 15? Whatever. So you run into all these comics that way. And one of the cool things also, because I've been doing it for such a long time, is I've seen comics before they were famous and known them before they were famous. I used to do a show in Santa Monica at this Westside Comedy Theater. I did it for 7 years pre-pandemic. And Ali Wong would just do it all the time. She lived around the corner. I had her number. She would text me, hey, can I come by tonight? Whatever. No one had ever heard of Ali Wong at all, And then all of a sudden, Baby Cobra comes out, and she's a household name, you know, and she's like Halloween costume, and she's got millions of followers and doing movies and all this stuff. And we still keep in touch, you know.
That's
And
awesome.
I still have her number. I still text her, hey, are you free next Friday or whatever? And if she wants to drop in on a show, she can. So it is a community where, you know, you meet everybody through doing shows. But, you know, this whole thing about like knowing these celebrity comics and stuff, sometimes you meet them and they're not. So sometimes you meet him and it's like, I met Hannibal Buress before he was Hannibal Buress. I met Ali Wong, and I'm sure there's like 10 people who I can name right now that will be. I knew Andrew Schultz, but when I was 19, and he was trying to get people to go to a pizza shop and watch him. And he ended up getting 300 people at the pizza shop, which was crazy because he's a hustler. But yeah, so the community is the community of working comedians is small. The community of comedians is huge. There's thousands out there. But of those that work
Yeah.
in Los Angeles or New York or even on the road, hundreds, you know, barely.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of leads into my next question. I think coming to LA or doing something like you're doing or we're doing, you have like a different mindset, right? Like you don't want the 9 to 5. You don't want. I saw in one of your reels how your dad wanted you to be a doctor, right?
Right.
Like just
Well,
that,
I'm Indian. Every Indian dad
Right.
wants their kid to be a
So,
doctor. Yeah.
kind of that conservative mindset of, you know, you get a normal job. So when did you realize, oh, I'm a little different. I want to go to LA. I want to be a comedian. And then how long did it take for you to get to that place where you're a working comedian?
So it takes a long time. Like I said, I've been doing it about a little over a decade. It took about 6 to 7 years, around that range, when I started making enough money to support myself just doing stand up. I kind of felt that way immediately as soon as I did it. I had always wanted to do it. I've been a huge fan of comedy. I had used to watch comedy specials when I was a kid, and I would write down comedian like Chris Rock's jokes and like, you know, Mitch Hedberg and stuff like that. And then I would retell it at like lunch or recess or whatever, like in middle school. So I had a notebook full of jokes. And because I was mimicking, I learned the structure of writing jokes.
Yeah.
Because I was literally writing down what they were saying. I was like, oh, I could just come up with my own. So then in high school, I had a notebook full of my own jokes. And I would just tell people my own jokes. I thought it was really funny. And they were like, oh, yeah, Neel, you got a new joke. I was like, yeah, I got this. Checks out. And then I was dating someone when I was in college. When I was 19. And they were like, can you stop doing this? And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, if you want to do stand-up, just go do stand-up. And I didn't know you could just go do stand-up. I didn't know there was a way to I just thought it was like, there's me telling my girlfriend jokes, or like a bunch of people who don't want to hear it, or Dave Chappelle. There's no middle ground, you know? And she was like, Google it. And I was like, all right, I'll Google it. Chill. You're not going to yell at me. So I Googled it, and there was an open mic, and I told myself, I was like, all right, well, I have so many jokes. I'm going to try them out. If I suck, I'll never do this again. And if I do great, I'll keep going, you know? So I went up. It went really well. And I was like, all right, I'll keep going. And this is a really funny story. So then the next 3 spots I did 3 more shows right after that. Bomb, bomb, bomb. Just bomb. And I'm just like, I was like, what? That worked last night? What, that worked the night before?
How
you
big
know?
were the crowds?
Around 50 to 100.
that's
Not
pretty big.
Yeah, it was pretty. So Atlanta's a really cool place because the open mics, like people are just, there's not as much entertainment like in LA or New York. Like in LA and New York, like no one's gonna go to an open mic because it's like, no, fuck that. I'm gonna go see the Rolling Stones. I'm gonna go see this, you know, show, or I'm gonna go see Louis, or I'm gonna go see whatever. But in Atlanta, it's like, all right, fuck it, I'll go. So you would go to these open mics, and there'd be 50 to 100 people there. And so I got to work out my material in front of real people, which was awesome. And so the next 3 shows were just bomb, bomb, bomb. Nothing. The same shit didn't work 3 times in a row. I remember I called the girl on my Motorola Razr, and I was like, babe, I think I quit. I just bombed 3 times in a row. And while I was on the phone with her, I got a call waiting, and I picked it up, and they're like, where are you? I was like, what do you mean, where am I? And they're like, you're supposed to be on the show. I was like, what are you talking about? And they're like, where are you? I was like, I'm on Piedmont and whatever. And they're like, yeah, it's right around the corner. But you're on in like 20 minutes. Can you make it? I was like, yeah, whatever. I had no idea that I agreed to do a show because somebody was like, hey, you should come by and do my show. You know, I have a show Saturday. You should come by and do it sometime. And I was like, oh yeah, for sure, I'll do it. I thought maybe like in the future or whatever. He's like, yeah, it's this Saturday. And like he let me know, and he took my number and everything. But I was an idiot 19-year-old. I didn't know I was supposed to be doing a show. So I roll over to that show, and I get up, and I just fucking kill it. Just fucking kill it. Nerves. I'm sorry I'm late. And I get on stage and just I just do my set and I fucking destroy. And I remember thinking like, I was about to quit. And I got a literal phone call saying, hey, you're on a show right now. And it went really well. And I was like, maybe I should be doing this. You know, I took it as a sign in some way.
Yeah.
And another funny thing was, do you know Kumail Nanjiani? He's like in a Marvel movie now, and he was in the Big Sick. Yeah. So he was actually headlining that show. And I had to bring him up. And I remember I never met him. And he was like, I was like, hey, what's up, man? What's your name? He's like, oh, Kumail Nanjiani. I was like, oh, Neel, nice to meet you, whatever. And he goes, yeah, you're bringing me up. I was like, cool. So I wrote his name down in my notebook. I go up and I do my set, and I go, guys, give it up for Kumail Nanjiani. Totally fucked up his name. And then he goes up and he goes, really? Really? The only brown person on the show fucks up my name. Really? I get if Matt did it. I get if Aaron did it. But this guy? And he just shit all over me. It was so
That's
funny.
hilarious.
But he
got
really,
jacked too, right? Did you get
he got
like fucking jacked? Yeah.
He made it impossible for Indian dudes to date. That is
What is that?
Yeah, it is a hate crime. It's
That's wild.
fucked up. No, it's fucked up because like I've never seen an Indian look that jacked, and now women know we can.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't like that.
He really fucks you
He
guys.
fucked us up.
Yeah.
You know,
God
let's
damn.
stick to Hassan Minaj and Aziz Ansari and like all these other dudes, Dev Patel, these skinny motherfuckers. Let's stick to that. Let's look malnourished. We don't need to look jacked.
Yeah. Damn.
But no, I think that's right to the point, right? Like, don't quit, because you could be one phone call away or one call waiting away to doing what you actually wanted to do.
Yeah, and
know?
I fell in love with it, and I kept going, and I worked crazy day jobs, waitering, baristaing, bullshit, all this stuff, until I got a college agent, and I was able to start doing colleges, and it was cool because I had started comedy when I was 19. A lot of people don't start that young. So when I got a college agent, I was young, and I killed it in the college market because I had just gotten out. You know what I mean? Like I'm 24, 25.
Speak their language.
Speak their language. Exactly. So like a lot of people will do colleges and then they age out of it very quickly. But I didn't. I got to do it for like 3 years, and they looked at me like I was one of them. You know? I looked like one. I didn't have a beard back then either. I looked 15. So they thought I was just some kid like from like algebra or whatever the fuck. Who college kid goes to algebra? I did dumb colleges. But just a kid from calculus, and I just went on stage, and so that's when I started doing it for a living, and then I started work. I got some work on Comedy Central, and I did late night and touring and stuff like that. All kind of rolled in slowly.
Wow.
You got one?
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, so we said it's a small circle, more or less. Have you ever seen Pete Davidson's penis?
I have not seen Pete Davidson. I have a Pete Davidson story though. So Pete Davidson, does not involve his penis.
Okay.
And you know what's funny is when I met him, thinking back, he had little dick energy in this story. But I don't doubt that he has a huge dick. I do not. There's no there's probably proof somewhere.
Yeah.
Who started that?
Well,
Ariana Grande?
Yeah, but also I just saw I think Jay Farrell came out and said something.
About his huge
Yeah,
dick?
like the other day.
Jason.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, if a black guy says it, it's fucking, it's true.
Yeah, it's gotta be true.
Black guy's not gonna fucking say it's big.
I'm surprised you didn't see it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I haven't seen it. No.
Yeah. Do you know Pete?
Well, we're from Staten Island.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So my he's about 7 years younger than me, so I'm not really friends with him. But we used to babysit him when he was young.
Wow.
So I haven't seen his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
child's
It
penis.
would be illegal if
No,
you
I
saw his
know.
penis.
He's
Yeah.
7 years old.
If you were changing the diaper
police.
or
Yeah.
he peed his pants or something.
Yeah.
But I have not seen it.
So I met Pete when I first moved to LA. I was probably like 23, 24, and we were both on a show in Santa Monica at the Westside Comedy Theater. And his manager had hit up the club, and he was visiting from New York, and they were like, hey, he's performing on Kimmel. Can he stop by and run his set? And they're like, yeah, of course. And so he comes by, goes to the green room. He's really cool, really nice guy. We're hanging out, whatever. He goes up, he kills. I'm like, hey, great set. Neel, nice to meet you. We're having a conversation. He goes, so do we get like drinks at the show? And I go, yeah, you're a comic. Just go to the bar. Tell him you're a comic. And he goes, I'm 19. And I was like, oh shit. So I was like, I got you. So I went to the bar. I just got him some drinks, and he was acting like a 19-year-old. He was like, when you're 19, you get a beer, like fuck yeah. That's what he was doing in the green room. Little dick energy, bro. If you got big dick, you're like, let's go get it. You know what I mean? but not that that's anything indicative of his dick size. I'm sure it's girthy and large and fantastic.
It's got to be, yeah.
But yeah, I remember I was getting beers for him, and I thought it was so funny. I was like, "Oh yeah, he's 19." That's fucking
So he
crazy.
started young.
He started 19 too. Yeah.
Oh wow, so right
Or like
right
18.
at
Yeah, he
19.
started maybe even
No,
like 17,
high school. I think he was like
yeah.
16 or 17. He started real young.
Yeah.
So he started when he was at sea in Staten Island?
Yeah.
He started when he was
Wow.
like 16 or something.
Yeah.
Something crazy like that. Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We,
there's
we,
a-
we have some good comedians from Staten Island. Colin Jost.
Colin Jost. Tim Dillon, I believe.
He might be Long Island.
Long Island.
Yeah.
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 I think, and then Seinfeld's Long Island too? Or he lives in Long Island?
Maybe, yeah, Queen.
He's not a Staten
I don't
Island
know.
guy.
Yeah, he's definitely on Staten Island, but yeah.
I conglomerate all of that with New York.
Most people do.
You know,
yeah.
but I get that if you're from Staten Island, you want to have like some pride. You want to go, hey,
No,
this guy. You know?
we're at the bottom of the barrel, right?
And in New York spots?
Yeah, I feel like if you call someone from Long Island from Staten Island, they'd be really offended. If you would say that we were from Long Island, they'd be like, no, like we're from Staten Island.
Yeah, it's kind of part of
Oh,
Jersey.
So you're the
you know?
bottom of, so you're the,
Yeah, I
oh,
think
damn.
We're the bottom of the
So that's where
totem
the
pole,
pride comes from. That's why you're like, oh yeah, these guys made it. They made it out the hood.
Yeah, exactly.
They're
And
like the
our-
rappers that made it out the hood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our parents are still there, so we got, we still got love.
Yeah.
A lot of
cool.
friends too. I got a lot of love for Staten Island.
Yeah, but
Always.
I conglomerate all that with New York. I'm just like, oh, the New York guys.
Yeah,
Whether
most
it's
people
Staten,
do.
Long Island, whatever island, with
We
whatever.
appreciate that. That's
know,
how we
it's
like
like-
to be seen.
I think it's
Yeah.
so close.
Yeah.
It's a ferry away.
Yeah, exactly. It actually looks like it's supposed to be part of Jersey if you look at a map.
Yeah.
But-
I even put Jersey in there too. I'll throw Jersey
Yeah,
in the
we'll
mix.
take it.
It's
We'll
all
take
the
it.
same
Yeah.
shit.
So
you
I
know?
think Jersey and New York State were actually kind of pushing us towards each other for Staten Island, and I think New York got us because they had a bigger economy, and they were like, all right, you take
That
Staten
makes
Island.
sense. Yeah. Jersey was like, we just have trash here. I don't know what to do with all this pizza and trash.
Dude, that dump, I think it was
That
the second
dump.
biggest dump in the world for a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Now, do you know the Impractical Jokers or about them?
I did a show with one of them. Was it Sal?
Okay.
Sal Volcano?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I did a show with him in New York. And I did a show that had sketch in it with
Okay.
Murray or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, he was a really cool guy.
Nice.
But they don't really do stand up as much. They came kind of from an improv background, and there's like a beef between comedy and improv.
Really?
I don't have a problem at all, and most people don't have a problem. But there's like it's like a traditional beef. It's like a thing where it's like, that's not art, and then they're like, no, what you're doing is just talking about your dick, and like they
I
create
could
this.
see it.
There's this beef that's been going on for like generations. It's not really there anymore, but it's almost like a joke between comics. God, fucking improv guys, or like the
Yeah.
improv guys, like, oh, he's fucking dirty stand-up. I just want to go up there and talk about my dick for 3 minutes or whatever. And so like there's like a beef between us. So we don't really interact much. There's a little bit of crossover. You see like Donald Glover, who started from improv, went into stand-up, went into acting, is now doing amazing things. There's a handful of guys that do that and are like that, but generally there's not much crossover.
Yeah.
Most of them go into acting. Most stand-ups just become stand-ups or writers. So it's like two different lanes.
Yeah.
But they intersect.
Yeah.
And the comics will act and improv guys will write and they'll, work together.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Do you have any like big specific career goals?
Specific. I mean, one thing I think is really cool right now is like I used to have these goals. Like I wanted to do late night. I did late night. I wanted to do a set on Comedy Central. I did a set on Comedy Central. I wanted to do a half hour. I did a half hour. I did all these things that I wanted to do, and I realized that's just what like people are telling you to do, or people are saying that's the roadmap. But what's really cool about this generation in this era is there is no roadmap.
Yeah.
There are people that will like you shit their pants and then have 5 million followers. You know what I mean? So it's like, and not to say that's great or that's art.
I don't think it's sustainable though.
It possibly.
Shitting your pants on a.
Who knows? Who knows? You never know. What if that guy's opening for
If he's a
Louis,
one-trick pony though, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But what I think is really cool is with the internet, you can put out so much content and find your fans, and they can find you, and you can kind of build your own community and build your own fan base. And right now, my goal is to just grow that fan base into, I'm doing clubs now. When I travel, I'll do like a 200 or 300 seat club, or, I'll do like a rock venue for that's like 400 or something. But I'd like to just build that fan base up to where I'm doing theaters and touring and doing Radio City and shit like that. And that's something that like, it doesn't require the previous, the goals that I had previously, like a Netflix special and a HBO movie and a this, like that doesn't matter. I have so many friends that are in movies and they can't sell 50 tickets. You know what I mean? I have friends that are like in movies with like famous actors. I'm not even gonna name the actors in case one of my friends here is like, hey, that's me. You know. But I have friends that are in popular TV shows and things like that, and people are like, who's that? Because there's just so much content right now that networks don't dictate who is famous or popular anymore. You know, and you're right with the one trick pony. Of course, that shitting your pants guy is not going to sell MSG. But somebody like Andrew Schultz had never done stand-up on television, had never done late night, had never done Netflix, anything, none of that stuff. Just started putting stuff out online, and within 2-3 years, he was selling out Radio City Music Hall. So he's created this roadmap that's like, you can do it on your own. You can do it through podcasting. You can do it through putting your stand-up out there. You can do it through sketch. You can do it through there's so many different avenues.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's even better now too. Like we've done a couple like interview stuff on college campuses, and half the kids don't even know who Leonardo DiCaprio is. And it's like everything's different. Everything's
insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. Yeah. Imagine like 20 years ago, like everyone's mom, grandma, like everybody was creaming over Leonardo DiCaprio, and now it's like, who?
Yeah.
And the only people that are that age that know him are the girls that are dating him. That's it.
That's the whole thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's it. Just the 24-year-olds that are dating him. That's the only people that know.
Yeah. So exactly what you're saying. You got to build your own little fan base and throw it across every platform, and it's crazy.
Yeah. And it's proved to be like fruitful and successful for me. I didn't sell, like I had done this stuff. I had done late night and Comedy Central and Amazon Prime and this and that. I've done Hulu and all these networks, like where I worked, and I shot pilots with MTV, and I did all these network things. Didn't help me sell a single ticket. This is one weekend where I remember I realized that what it was. So like just having the credits will have you sell tickets. People don't even have to see it. There's like, oh, I was on Comedy Central and Jimmy Kimmel. Yeah, sure, I'll buy tickets, you know? So I was selling tickets that way, but they'd never seen me. I did a club in, I think it was Minneapolis. Was it Wisconsin? Madison was, it was maybe Minneapolis, say Minneapolis for the story. And I remember I was doing my show, it was sold out, it was cool. It was right after I did late night. And I saw a table of like 69-year-olds, like just the oldest people I ever seen. I like made fun of them, I talked to them, blah, blah. And then after the show, people were like, hey, great show. It was really funny, blah, blah. And I would talk to people like, oh, where'd you hear me? Like, oh, yeah, just saw your poster. Or like, I saw like you were going to be in town, and I looked up one of your clips or whatever. And the table of 69-year-olds was like, we loved you on Jimmy Kimmel. And I was like, holy shit, that's who's watching late night.
Wow.
Is the oldest people alive. You know? So I realized then, I was like, no one gives a fuck about network. You know, and I remember one time I was even at a friend's place, or I was in like Boston, and my friend was like, yeah, come back, you have drinks at my place. And he stayed with his grandpa, and his grandpa was asleep on the couch watching Colbert. And I was like, yeah, that's the audience for late night, you know? So doing these goals that I used to have, they've kind of been thrown out. And what's really cool is you can be your own creator. You want to do a special? One thing that's cool is Netflix is picking up so many specials that comedians self-produce. And when you self-produce a special, you can do it however you want. You can do it in whatever kind of venue. You can do it. You can do a docu special. You can do a series. You can do a special cut up into 4 episodes. You can do whatever you want with it. And my goal right now is just to be creative and do those things that I've written and developed and want to come to fruition without a network. You know, just doing it on my own.
Do you have what you would consider a special?
Yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay. What's it called? So we can...
It's just Neel Nanda 30 Minutes Live at the Comedy Strip.
Okay.
It's
cool.
I put it on YouTube.
Yeah, I've seen... I think we've both watched a bunch of your stuff in the past couple of days, but I haven't watched that yet.
Yeah. So there's a half hour up there. And I'm working on producing a special in my own creative way. You know, and that's a goal of mine. For sure.
Nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, like you said, the generational thing, right? It's all different now, and I think people create these hurdles for themselves. When you have all these platforms, if you want something that bad, just go do it. Right?
Yeah, I agree. And you can't really even knock out any platform. Like you never know where things are gonna pop or where things are gonna work. I was in Atlanta, and for a long time, like I didn't really TikTok much. I was like, all right, well, cool. Do I need 8-year-olds at my show? I don't need 8-year-olds at my show. So, I would just throw stuff on TikTok just for the fuck of it. Whatever. I throw it on Instagram, I'll throw it on TikTok, whatever. And some of the things, they would blow up, but I never saw any ticket sales coming through because they were all 15 or 17 or 20 or whatever. Like, I got a lot of comments like, I wish I was old enough to go to your show, shit like that. And then I was in Atlanta recently, maybe a year ago, and there were like a bunch of like drunk, rowdy 22-year-olds there. And I was like, oh, cool, from Instagram? And they were like, no, TikTok. And I was like, oh, they grew up.
Yeah.
Like they were probably 18 when they followed me. 3 years later, now they're 21.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you can't write off anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's wild. Yeah.
Yeah. And enjoying the journey, right? Where you want to be. I don't know. I just want to enjoy the journey.
I'm really enjoying the journey, and I'm enjoying the journey more and more now that I feel like I have more control of the journey.
For sure.
Before it wasn't enjoyable because I was auditioning for networks and sending in my clips and doing all this stuff. And if they were like, no, then I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
But now I have control. And if they go, no, then I go, fuck it. I'm putting it out myself. I don't care.
But I think breaking through that barrier makes it so much sweeter, right? And it's like, look what could happen if you just keep going and break through the barrier.
Yeah.
So it's cool. It's really cool. Inspiring.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you and Natasha are going on 7 years, obviously. We're a dating app, talking about dating. What advice would you give us to the last 7 years for people who aren't as funny as you? We can't use comedy to...
It helps.
Or if they don't have a big penis either.
Yeah, that helps too.
So you're funny,
both
Pete's
those
got the
things
big
help.
dick.
Yeah, Pete, sure, yeah, whatever. Me, Pete, the same thing, humor does help for sure. It can really soften the situation. Anytime you're in an argument, whatever, you find some humor. If you can break that ice, that definitely helps. But I think just like being on the same page, just knowing, because like a lot of times, like we've been together for a long time, and then like people are like, oh, you get married, you have kids, what's this? And it's like we're on the same page. We made that clear, abundantly clear early on in the relationship, and so there's no question, there's no doubt. There's no like nagging feeling or weird like, hey, what about this? When aren't we gonna do this next year? There's none of that, because it's like, no, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And just being upfront and having the same goals and having the same timeline is important. I think that's what keeps you together. I think what happens is people don't have that or aren't upfront about that in the beginning, and then they start to realize, wait, you want this? I wanted this. 100%. Wait, you want a kid? I thought you wanted, and that's how people start to fall apart, is they're not on the same page.
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on.
Yeah. That communication is everything. And like you're saying, I think it kind of goes hand in hand with the career in a sense of like doing things at your own pace and not falling into the, societal norms and traps of like trying to conform to other people's expectations.
If I had fallen into the societal norms, I'd be in medical school right now. I would be, my parents would be proud. That's the only difference. No, but I would, I'd be in medical school right now, or I'd be like, whatever, in a hospital, like, changing an IV or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. And
that's great for anybody who wants to do that, but I've never wanted to do that, and I'm much happier going against these norms and finding my own path. I think that's important for people to do. If you're passionate about something or if you love something, figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, we actually had, was it Chris or Jason, who was in medical school and quit medical school to do
acting.
Yeah, acting and come out to Hollywood and
ended up on a reality
really
show to start. But same path, deep into the medical school.
And he's probably really smart and can probably figure out how to navigate this fucking crazy world. You know? And those are the people that are successful.
Yeah.
Ken Jeong was a doctor. Dr. Ken.
Shout out to Duke.
Shout out to Dylan. He went to yeah, okay.
I didn't go to Duke. No.
Okay. Just shouting it out. It's like, oh, by the way.
This podcast is sponsored by Duke. Yeah.
Oh,
Duke Lacrosse.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, where can we find you? Obviously, you're bigger than us, so.
Just, all the social media stuff, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you find you want to check me out. YouTube, I have 2 to 3 hours of material up there.
Pornhub.
My manager once was like, why don't you try Pornhub? I go, what do you want to do porn? And he was like, no, throw up a bit there, see what happens.
Do you know what UJizz is?
Huh?
Do you know
UJizz?
what UJizz? Do you know what that is?
No, I don't.
Wow, that's 2 in a row.
What is UJizz?
That's his favorite porn site, but it's a little
So
outdated.
apparently,
UJizz?
I've
Very forward.
So
I've heard of it, to be fair.
No,
to
this
you.
is really upsetting
Yeah.
because
I don't use it, but I've heard of it.
So I guess, I don't know. 8 years ago, I found
Mhm.
UJizz, right?
Okay.
So I was like, oh, this must be the best porn site. So for the last 8 years, I've been
You
using it.
you were just like, that must be it.
So breaking news. I used, what's it called? The other day. Balesa.
Mm-hmm.
But no one knew what UJizz was. And I was like, wait, I thought it was like the most popular
No,
porn site.
it was
out
just
there.
for you.
I think it was in the early 2000s,
Yeah.
maybe.
It's
There's
kinda
only
good
one
stuff.
person on it. It's him. That's why they call it UJizz.
If they're keeping that whole
Yeah.
production up for
For
me,
you, yeah.
shout out UJizz.
They're like Joe, UJizz. Yeah, I think that's just for you. But yeah, my manager once was like, yeah, throw a bid on Pornhub, see what happens. I never did it, but
That's interesting.
maybe I will.
That's really, yeah, you never know. That could be like you said, you never know what's going to catch
You
fire. So
never
that could
know.
be like the one
comic
thing.
who just throws material on Pornhub.
Yeah.
And then,
Starting now. This is the change. This is my career change. It's like, dude, I was just jacking off, and this guy's hilarious. It's crazy.
Yeah, and if you use like the right title, like, I don't know, comedian gets
destroy,
fucked.
gets fucked by a heckler, some
Yeah.
bullshit like that. Yeah, comedian fucks crowd in the face and some dumb shit. Yeah.
Okay.
Possibly, who knows?
yeah. And then November 26th.
Yeah,
November
so what are the
26th.
deets? What are the deets on
What are
that,
the
and what's the
deets, Neel?
lineup?
So we are at Daimyo Arts Center in Los Angeles. It's a really cool underground speakeasy. It seats about 200. It's gonna be awesome. Lineup is awesome. Drew Lynch, who was either a finalist or winner of America's Got Talent, he's on it. Trevor Wallace, who, if you don't know him, you don't have the internet, because the guy's hilarious. He coined the phrase "no laws when you're drinking claws."
Yeah.
That was him.
Steve told me about this. So to be fair,
Yeah.
I'm still stuck in the UJizz era. I didn't know who
You
he
didn't know who
was.
Trevor Wallace was?
No, but he
That's-
knows everybody, so he kind
Yeah,
of
so
helps
you know
me.
Trevor Wallace.
Yeah.
Yeah. Curious Shabazz, who used to write on The Tonight Show with Fallon. He's incredibly funny. Amy Miller, who's been on Comedy Central, on like a bunch of shit. She's on it. And myself, Neel
Yeah,
Nanda.
Amazing lineup. Yeah.
It honestly is. What's amazing about it, and I didn't tell you this, Joe, but like everybody was out of town. I was like, yo, we're not going to get a good lineup. Like, everyone's actually going home because like comedians, we don't like our families. So I was like, they're going to be in town. And we went through, like, we tried Craig Robinson, we tried Tiffany Haddish, we tried all these people. They're like, no, I'm out of town, I'm doing this, I'm shooting a movie, and blah, 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 whatever. And then we're like, man, this lineup's probably going to end up being like, we're going to have to really pull people. And then Trevor was like, I'm in. And we were like, oh, amazing. And then Drew just hit us up. Hey, do you guys have a show around Thanksgiving? I'm happy to be in town. I was like, oh, shit, we got 2 of them. This is amazing. And then we just started hitting up, and then like a couple other people were like, I'm in town. I'm like, oh my God, Carrie's in town.
We're
And so-
starting too high here.
yeah, so we ended up getting some really great people. I think what's interesting is I think it'll be easier to get people out. Comedians were difficult because I guess they're going home. That's so weird to me. I don't ever go home to see my family. Are you kidding me? So, but the lineup is insane. Trevor Wallace, if you just go on the internet and you'll see his sketches, he's so funny. Drew Lynch, who America's Got Talent, Amy Miller, Curious Shabazz, and myself. So it's going to be amazing. It's going to be insane.
Then your buddy who helped facilitate all this.
Jack Fink,
Jack.
who used to be the booker at the Laugh Factory, helped produce this, and it's so funny. I was talking to him the other day because I don't know how he does this, but at all of his shows, he only gets hot people. It's got like, if you're listening and you're not hot, you're not going to get in, you know?
That's good for the app.
Yeah, I think so. And I was talking to him the other day, and I said, how do you only get hot? Like, you put your shit out to the public, and then only hot people come? He goes, yeah, hashtag no fatties. I was like, Jesus Christ, bro. You can't do that. He's like, you can. So,
Yeah.
but no, Jack is great. He didn't actually say that. Don't cancel him. Don't ruin his life. And but he's an incredible producer. He used to book at the Laugh Factory, so he's been a really great help at getting connected with a lot of these great comics.
Yeah, and I want to shout you and Jack out because we do a lot of pop-ups all the time, and sometimes they're a huge headache, and sometimes they're like such a miss. And you reached out to us, right? You kind of told us what it was,
Yeah.
and I was right off the bat shocked. I was like, that's easy. Just this is the price, and you're gonna do everything. And you and him literally from A to Z did everything, and
Yeah.
kind of made it really easy for us.
We're getting
so.
it popping. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're excited. Well, just like I was saying earlier about like comics will like do shit for like, do sets for like $50, whatever. Like as producers, and I'm a comedian as well, I'm like, yo, any opportunity, if you'll put down for the venue, you'll do all that stuff, I'll do a fucking badass show. Like, why not? You know what I mean? Like, I want good stage time too, because like
Yeah.
I can go to some bullshit bar and perform for like 18 people or 8 people and meet the love of my life, or I can go and produce a badass show with the dude who wants to like promote his app and, bring everybody together and do something sick.
Yeah, awesome.
I love that. Yeah.
Well,
That's
hopefully
awesome.
this is the beginning of something great.
I can't wait, man. It's
Yeah.
gonna be dope.
Neil,
for
thank you
having
so
me.
much, man.
This was
Appreciate
so
it. This is
fun,
awesome.
man.
Thanks, Neil.
Absolutely.
All right.